All right, in this next part, we're going to be looking at how plants respond to their external environment. Okay? Um, Most plant responses are going to be controlled by hormones. Um, these are just chemicals that the plant produces. They're transported through the plant, through other parts, maybe through the stem to help regulate growth, through the leaf to help trigger photosynthesis, to other parts to help trigger development, cell respiration, that type of thing. Okay. Um, some of these responses are going to be caused by the environment. So, not necessarily internal processes that need to be carried out, but maybe it's temperature change or sunlight movement, something like that, to where that's an external stimulus from the environment, and the hormones are going to be triggered as a response to that. What we call these responses to an external stimulus, to something that is caused through the environment, is a tropism. So these tropisms are different reactions that a plant goes through in response to some type of external stimulus. So let's look at some of some of this stuff. The hormone, one of the big hormones that are responsible for a plant responding um, to growth and responding to these stimuli is going to be auxin. Auxin is the main type of hormone. Okay, it's going to help promote cell elongation, which is going to help um, the stem grow. It's going to help the plant move different parts of the or grow in different parts of the plant to help it grow in different directions, okay, based on what's happening around it. Uh, Auxin is going to be used in response to geotropisms and phototropisms. You have types of hormones called gibberellins, okay, and these hormones are going to be responsible for increasing the speed at which a seed will germinate and at the speed at which buds develop, so the flowers can be produced. And this is going to once again tie into external stimuli, okay, weather patterns. Florists and gardeners and farmers like to employ these hormones into their plants to help enhance fruit formation. Okay, get bigger strawberries, juicier apples, that type of thing. Um, Florists, when they're ready to sell their flowers during Easter time or during Valentine's Day, to get those flowers produced in large quantity, maybe to manipulate the color, that type of thing. So those hormones would be used for this. Cytokinins are going to be the hormone that's going to help increase cell division, so help increase the growth of particular parts of the plant. Ethylenes are going to be hormones that will be used to cause a plant to ripen. Okay, or excuse me, a fruit. So once a fruit is produced, it has to ripen, and then the ethylenes hormones will help in that. Now let's look at, once these hormones are employed, what type of environmental responses are going to have an impact on that. Plants have the ability to alter which way their roots grow, which way the stems grow, what direction. They can shift different parts of the plant in response to environmental conditions that they're exposed to. Obviously, gravity is the big one. Sunlight, where does the sun move from east to west in the southern part of the atmosphere? Does it move east to west in the northern part? Okay, so plants can adjust themselves accordingly with the use of those hormones due to, say, for that example. Um, Touch would be another thing. What they're growing on or against. Okay. Now these tropisms, these responses to these external stimuli, are going to have particular outcomes in a particular direction. A positive tropism would be where the plant is responding and growing towards the stimulus that has triggered that tropism through hormones. Okay, a negative tropism, where it would be where the plant is growing away from that stimulus. All right, once again due to the trigger by hormones and to that tropism. Now, once a plant responds and triggers whichever tropism, whichever growth it's going to do, it can't undo that. However, it can, if it finds that that's not a favorable decision, right? Due to whatever factor, that it can change direction of its growth, even though it can't reverse its initial response to whatever tropism it's exposed to. So let's look at these tropisms. Phototropism is the most commonly type of tropism, most commonly type of response that a plant has to its external environment. This is just where a plant grows towards the light source. Okay, maybe it's due to the fact that if it's an indoor plant, okay, and that indoor plant, when it's inside, okay, there's not a 180, 360 degree angle of exposure to sunlight during the daytime. Maybe it's just exposed, okay, on its left side because it's sitting on a window and the window is facing or on the north side of the plant. And so this is where it will respond to the light and grow towards that light, okay, as a result of that. What will happen are the auxin hormones will actually stimulate stem growth and cause the stem on one side of the stem of the plant to grow longer, cause that part of the cells in that part of the stem to grow longer, making the plant grow towards, like it's leaning towards the window because that's its light source. Okay? This would be considered a positive tropism. Okay, it's responding and growing towards that stimulus. So if you set a plant in a window, eventually it's going to look like it's growing towards the window. And what it's doing is it's responding to this phototropism. Okay, it's producing these auxin hormones that are causing the side of the plant that's not facing the window to grow longer. That way the leaves can stretch toward the window where that's its light source, and it needs that light for photosynthesis. That would be a positive tropism. Here's a picture of a plant doing that. Maybe you have plants in your home that you've seen do that. Or maybe your grandparents' home, okay? Geotropism is another common type of tropism, and plants respond based on gravity. All right, roots are going to grow with the tropism, with or down in the positive direction. Okay, so they're going to grow with gravity, searching for the root, or searching for the water and mineral source. However, the top of the plant is going to grow up towards the light, but it's actually working against gravity. So that part would be considered a negative tropism. It's growing up towards the light because the higher it reaches, the less it will compete with the structures around it, whether it be other plants, whether it be rocks, land formations, whatever it is. Okay, so the growth upward towards the light is against gravity, so that would be a negative response, but it needs to do that to access more light for photosynthesis. But the roots growing down for water absorption and anchoring the plant, that would be a positive because it is going in response and with the force of gravity. Thigmotropism is another one. Okay, there are certain types of plants, vines, ivies that we've seen some in that plant video we watched that they respond to touch. They're going to use a structure, okay, and that structure has already done the hard work as far as growing up, okay, whether it be a tree, a rock face, a building. And so these vines, these ivies, they're going to use touch as their response, and it's a positive response because they will grow along with that structure. They will grow up alongside that structure. Now the nastic responses, those are your tropisms, but you do have nastic responses, okay? And what this is a plant's response that doesn't necessarily depend on the direction of the stimulus. Okay, a good example is the Venus flytrap and its hinges that it uses those electrical impulses to close once those triggers, those hair triggers have been touched. This type of response is actually in reverse to the original, so it's acting opposite, if you will, of its stimulus. Okay, the last thing I want to look at is I want to actually, so far we've looked at seed-bearing plants. We've looked at their structures, their seeds, their cones, flowers, fruits, stems, leaves. We've gotten into how they respond to the environment, but we never actually focused on our non-vascular plants, those that don't reproduce using seeds, how their life cycle works. So that's what this last little part is looking at our non-vascular plants and how their life cycles work using spores instead of seeds. Okay, so this is a nice picture. It lets you know, we've talked about what sporophytes are before. Okay, but we know that when a plant that is a spore-producing plant like a fern, okay, it has an alternation of generations, which means once that spore has been fertilized and it forms a zygote, it will go through mitosis, making these sporophytes. The sporophyte will then contain multiple cells, okay, so it would be considered multicellular then in a diploid version, not the haploid version. Then it will go through meiosis, produce haploid cells, produce reproductive cells, your gametes. Those will go through mitosis and then fertilization again. So this is how the spores turn into gametes. Once gametes have been fertilized and it turns into a zygote, then the sporophyte is the mature version of that zygote, and then it can grow into a plant. It'll reproduce. Then the spores are haploid spores are produced again. So this is the cycle. So this is after it's been fertilized. Okay, the sporophyte forms, and it grows into the fern or into whatever non-vascular plant we're talking about. Then that non-vascular plant will go through meiosis and make more spores. Those spores will then form gametophytes, okay, haploid versions of the spores. Those gametophytes then will, you have male and female versions that will come together, they will fertilize, they will form a zygote. That zygote then will turn into a sporophyte. That sporophyte then will grow into the plant, and you have this cycle for your spore-producing plants. Here is another look at it, okay, another picture, if you will. So here is your fern. Okay, your fern is going to produce, it's going to have sporophytes produced on it. Those sporophytes will then go through meiosis. After meiosis, you have your gametophytes that are produced. Those gametophytes then will go through fertilization between your male and female gametophytes. Those gametophytes then will form a zygote. That zygote then will grow your plant. Your plant will then grow. It will produce more spores, more sporophytes, and then you can see that circulation of spore-producing plants, or that life cycle of those spore-producing plants. So this wraps up